In today's video, I'm going to answer some first aid questions for parents in particular, but these could be helpful for everyone. I just get asked all the time, which products are okay to use for young babes and children, and sometimes pets, and how to use them, and like what are the most practical multifunctional products or herbs. So I'm going to go over a few things, mostly things we make and some things that we don't make. So let's get into it. What prompted today's video is a tea that I keep making this week for infants. And really maybe like infants to 2 years old, this would be a good thing to have on hand for just colds, coughs, anything that might come around that makes your babe uncomfortable. And it's at that young, tiny baby age, you might have things on hand for yourself and you're like, can I give this to them? Can I not give this to them? And my opinion on herbs for infants and kind of herbal remedies for infants, a lot of people will use a glycerin base because it's more palatable. In my personal opinion, babies are not yet spoiled by taste preferences. So most of them tolerate alcohol-based tinctures with no problem. And in my personal opinion, organic cane alcohol is better than glycerin. I'm not a glycerin hater. I just think that we don't need to use that as like the end all be all for babies and infants. My number one preference is tea. Reason being, you can steep this much tea and it's probably going to last you the duration of anything going on with an infant. Just a little tiny, like half a teaspoon in like 4 to 6 ounces of water is all you need. Keep it in the fridge. And then if you have a little pipette, like the top of a tincture, that's the best way to give it to them. And then you don't have to worry about alcohol versus glycerin, blah, blah, blah. What's so cool to me about just having the herbs you need and steeping a tea is that you can give that to them as medicine. The main difference is preservation. People like having their herbs in alcohol or glycerin because then it's sitting on the shelf and you don't have to stop and steep a tea. But if you can handle that, I think this is the best thing to do. What's also cool about it is that you can make a topical spray. For example, if you have yarrow on your shelf, you could steep that in water and make a spray for a rash. You could steep a tea and give it to them for fevers. You could put it in their bath water to help with fevers. There's just so much you can do if you just have the herbs. So that's kind of my first choice. What I put in this tea, I had someone call in about an infant that was really having a terrible cough to the point where when they would cough, they would cry from pain. And now I have another friend with an infant that has the flu. So we put together this bag of herbs. I don't sell this online. I only sell this in store, but you can find the herbs yourself if you're out of state. I love kudzu. Kudzu is probably my number one pick for cold care for young children. It's just generally so safe. It's a tonic herb. You can drink a lot of it. You don't really have to worry about how much you're giving, etc. So just a good solid one, amazing for cold care, helps to open those airways, has a little bit of a antibacterial, antiviral effects as well. And it's easy to mask the flavor. It's not like a bad strong flavor, it's just bland. So if your children are older than one, maybe adding some apple juice or something like that. I personally think this tastes great. I add fenugreek. Fenugreek is very moistening, and it has a sweetness to it. So I think this tastes really good. Kudzu is the main focus in here, and then you can add either marshmallow root or slippery elm. Marshmallow root is usually a little bit more sustainable and accessible. You can grow it in your garden, but if you live in the South or somewhere where slippery elm grows, we lose branches on our tree all the time, so maybe that's accessible to you too. So in here we've got marshmallow root, kudzu, fenugreek, and one of my favorite herbs for kids for cold and flus and adults too is monarda, or bee balm, some people call it. And most people who have a garden grow this flower because it's beautiful, it's a pollinator, it's native, and don't even know what a strong antibacterial herb that is. It's really strong. And not strong in the sense that it's going to be harmful for you. It's just going to be harmful for bacteria. So that's a great one to have. You would use that in place of yarrow. If you have yarrow, that's great. You could use that too. You could use both. And it's going to help also to process those fevers if that's going on. I feel like I put one more. Oh, anise, star anise, another one of my absolute favorite cold care herbs. I can never remember the constituent in star anise that Tamiflu is kind of made after, but really great herb for viruses and just cold care in general, and also great for kids. It gives it a little bit more of a flavor. You could use anise hyssop, star anise, licorice if you want to add a little flavor. To me, it again adds some sweetness, and all those herbs are amazing for cold care. Licorice is one of my favorite lung herbs, hands down. So, very simple tea. You can keep it at your house on hand for any time stuff like this comes up. The number one thing is a long steep time. And when you've got marshmallow or slippery elm, you want to give them some time either at room temperature or in the fridge to really pull out those mucilaginous properties. So when I mix a tea that's got herbs that need heat and herbs that need like room temperature to cold, what I would give the instructions on this tea is get hot water in a kettle or on the stove, pour it over your herbs, loose in a jar. We are not using tea balls in 2023, y'all. And let it steep as long as you can, at least an hour, because we've got a big hearty root in here, that kudzu root and marshmallow root. So let it steep at least an hour, and then before you strain it, we want to stick it in the fridge, or you could leave it out on the counter at room temperature overnight. That's also going to give the marshmallow or slippery elm time to get slimy at that room temperature. But if you want to speed things up, you can stick it in the fridge, and that bringing that temperature down is going to bring out all the slimy mucilaginous properties of the marshmallow. Keep it in the fridge for a week, and you can give it to your infant or child by the teaspoon or by a pipette dropper. This is going to be really soothing to coughs, a scratchy sore throat. It's going to help to expel some mucus. Now, some other ideas for this is baths. Baths are really, really helpful for kids. It makes them feel better, and it's another opportunity to add in a lot of herbs. So something I like to make is, for new moms, is a sitz bath, because you can use that like blend of herbs in so many ways. You can use it for yourself. You can use it as a perineum spray. You can use it as a spray for rashes on your babes. You can put it in their bath water if they're sick or they've got some skin stuff going on, some eczema. There's so many ways to use it. So buying a big bag of a sitz bath mix, either coming into a store like ours or finding some online, can be used in a million different ways as well. Some good ideas for baths if there's a cold or cough going on is going to be things like yarrow, monarda, some soothing things can be nice as well, calendula, chamomile. And one of my favorite things for kids' colds is our chest rub. Chest rub can be so effective. Rub it on the bottom of their feet, put a little on their chest, and just being able to inhale that mentholated herbs all night is so helpful at opening those airways and helping them to breathe easier. And then I pulled out some other stuff. Our Appalachia itch spray and our wound wash are really effective. These are herbs steeped in witch hazel, which you could do at home, or you could buy ours. Our wound wash is a strong antibacterial, but it is definitely gentle enough for kids and pets. And this is really useful on the go for cuts, scrapes, anything they might get into. And then two really great salves that we make for the whole house, but children especially, and pets. Cooling pine tallow balm to me is like the number one you should have. And then our itch salve is very, very moistening and soothing and good for any kinds of like rashes, eczema, scalp dermatitis, things like that. And then cooling pine tallow is good for literally everything else. So these would be like my top picks for kids